Hi guys, Alfie man, come on. Hi guys, Muddle Muppet here, how are you doing? I just started trying to do this without the dog being in, but ever since somebody on one of my videos where Alfie was in it said that he was the star of the show, he's like this whenever he sees me talking in front of the camera. You know, don't you? You do know. Anyhow, what I'm here to talk about today is kind of like a chat with my friends, with my regular viewers. Alfie, man. And what I'm going to be chatting about is gaming past 50, right? I recently had a comment on one of my YouTube videos. I've had a couple lately saying things like, you know, you're ancient. Okay, I'm ancient, you know, deal with it. And one of my recent comments was, you must be at least 60. What you're doing even still playing games. Hey, so as usual, I had my initial reaction of fuck off, shut the fuck up, who the fuck are you to tell me, you know? But you know, it kind of gets your mind thinking the way that things do. Alfie, you're gonna let me do this thing. It got me thinking about stuff the way that you do. So I think some of it, I think it's worth talking about, you know. Oh, I do like a nice whiskey. Not that that is a nice whiskey, it's just an average whiskey. So, hold on, bear with me. So, I think one of the problems that exists between different generations is a lack of empathy. And by that I mean the lack of the ability to put yourself into that mindset and try and see the world the way that the other person sees it. Now obviously somebody who was say 15, I don't know how old the person was who made the comment, they didn't state their age. But say for argument's sake they were 15. They can't put themselves into the mind of a 50-year-old, it's just impossible. But I should at least be able to bring some kind of recollections of, well, how did I see the world when I was 15? And you know, time distorts things, I appreciate that, I understand that. But there should be some idea of how did I see the world at 15. Now, when I was 15, it used to baffle me that anybody would even want to be alive past 40. I mean, you know, you get ugly, you get fat, you get bald, you know, all that kind of stuff. I couldn't for the life of me think of anybody having sex past 40. So, therefore, people older than 40 didn't have sex. And once sex went, what's the point of even fucking living? You get what I'm saying? I'm always reminded when I think of these sort of subjects of the seminal song by The Who, which I am old, but I wasn't old enough to catch this first time round, of the song My Generation. And in it has the line, I hope I die before I get old. And I think, yeah, I was like that at 15. I was thinking, yeah man, I don't want to live past 40, that's just ill, you know, that's sick. But your mind kind of changes when you hit 40, you know what I mean? You don't want to voluntarily put yourself onto an ice floe and get pushed out into the ocean to die a cold and lonely death, or whatever the equivalent custom is at your part of the world. Things do change. But I'd sent a message back to this kid, and I'm saying kid, he might not have been a kid, but I'm kind of making an assumption here. You know what? Coffee and whiskey. Coffee and whiskey and a cigarette. I'm in heaven. And so I said, well, what age do you think you're going to be when you stop playing games? And very quickly I got a message back, when I'm 26 and start to settle down and have children. So obviously within his mind there was this clear delineation between being young and having the ability to enjoy yourself, and then being old and no longer seeking to enjoy yourself and just sort of living a life of responsibility. So I'm just going to reflect back at the various sort of ages of my life and look at sort of what part gaming played within those sort of different areas. For nothing else than the sense of discussion. And as always on my videos, do feel free to comment. You know, even if you think I'm an old fart and I shouldn't be playing games, or I no longer have the right to enjoy myself, or if I should seek some sort of more age-suitable pastime, you know, like playing carpet bowls or something like that. Alfie, seriously, will you fuck off, dog? I do love my dog. So now, because I am so old, I've been around sort of games more or less since they came out. You know, I can remember, I think at the time I was about 13, and I was living in Germany at that time. My parents were in the forces, and some kid on the block I'd got this little kind of device about that big, and this was a big thing at the time, you know, because you could play Pong or something on it, and you know, I was, you know, mind blown. But I wasn't really keen on games at that sort of stage, and I think the first time I started really getting hooked on games, and I don't know when this was, to be completely accurate, I'm suspecting I was about somewhere between 18 and 20. Was when the Commodore 64 was out, and there was a game out called The Hobbit, I believe it was, and this was a text adventure. Now, but just to put this into some kind of context, at that age, I was playing in bands all the time, and I was out loads, you know. A lot of my life revolved around partying, you know. I was sort of well known locally, I guess, because of playing in different bands, and so I had a large circle of friends. Oh, Alfie, seriously, and was pretty much always out partying. I did a lot of experimenting with drugs. I'm not saying that as a boasting, not saying I'm proud of it, or I'm not ashamed of it either, but it's just part of who I was. And I did a lot of, you know, getting drunk, as you do, and I still sort of found this game really sort of exciting. So I would be out, say, one night, I'd be, you know, at some party or at a gig, getting high, you know, getting drunk, getting laid, you know, doing kind of all the stuff that a teenager or a young 20-year-old should be doing. But then on another night, I used to go and stay at one of my friends' houses on a very regular basis, who was slightly younger than me, but he got married very young and did the whole settling down thing very, very early on in his life. And we used to go there, and we used to drink a few beers and play The Hobbit and play Dungeon Master and these sort of games, and it was just this whole sort of world that was opening up. So even at that stage in my life, which was probably the most, one of the most sort of wild times, I guess, of my life, there was room in it for games to enjoy them. Now, I then got married when I was 24, and we didn't have children for quite a few years, not because we were struggling, or we just, you know, we were just kind of young and just enjoying this again, still enjoying a relatively crazy social life, I guess, for a married couple. We didn't get married and then sort of turn middle-aged and stay at home every night. We were out all the time. Maybe on another video I'm going to talk about some of my escapades from my younger days, because I'm sure there's some good material there. Sorry, I'm kind of just trying to keep track of my thoughts. Too many drugs when I was younger. But so in my sort of, say, mid-20s, I started taking life a bit more seriously, and when I was 27 I started doing my nurse training. Still pretty much the party animal, but had my own home, and there was definitely room in my life for games. And you know, even sort of, you know, in my late 20s and early 30s, I still would sometimes play in bands occasionally, not that much, but enough to have fun and still enjoy it as a hobby, enough to get me out loads. And there was definitely still room for my life in games then. In fact, me and a couple of friends we wrote our own game. And this is before the internet, right? Before the internet. At this time there was only bulletin boards. You wouldn't even know what the fuck I'm talking about, half you. And before Return of Castle Wolfenstein, which is one of the first 3D multiplayer games, came out, we wrote one for the Atari ST. Anyway, that's another story. The Atari ST ended up sort of becoming defunct by the time we finished writing the program. We got an 86% rating in, I believe it was an Atari ST format, which was like a top magazine at the time, probably at the time the only magazine still left covering the Atari ST. So yeah, games were still important. I then had my daughter. I was 30 when my daughter was born. I'm very much a doting dad, you know. I loved those baby stages. In fact, when my daughter was born, I was working on the maternity ward of that hospital as part of my student nurse training, and I used to show the new mothers and the expectant mothers how to bathe a baby, using my own daughter as an example, because she was still there, you know. Great times, great times. But you know, through all those sort of childhood stages, I love being an involved parent. But I still love playing games as well. There's definitely still room in my life for playing games. So then we're starting to move between 30s and 40s. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned was, I kind of guess about the age of 30, I started to do a lot more physical things than I'd previously done. I was never a great sportsman when I was young. I've never really sort of had the physique for it. But I had always done a certain degree of sort of home exercise, you know, with some weights, doing a bit of jogging, that kind of stuff. And I started doing karate. I did karate for quite a few years. I was doing Tai Chi, and still had time for games. Between sort of 30 and 40, I can't remember how old I was now, but you know, myself and my first wife did separate. And you know, when we first separated, to help sort of ease the financial strain, I was working about 5 12-hour shifts a week, and on the days when I wasn't doing my 12-hour shifts, I was looking after the kids, and still loved it. I was working hard, a lot of responsibilities with the kids, but you know what? I still love playing games. Oh, hold on. Talking about responsibilities, I've got to nip out the kitchen and knock the timer off because my chicken's nearly done. Alright, I'm back. So yeah, I guess it was, I don't know, probably late 30s when I got divorced and whatnot. And I was also trying to fit in, yet again, some kind of social life. I enjoyed going out loads, you know, I enjoyed being with other people, and so there's used to make time for social life, made time for looking after the kids, made time for work, and you know what? I still used to like playing games. It wasn't a massive part of my life, but I still used to enjoy it. Always have done. Now, over the course of my life, I've had a lot of girlfriends. I've been married twice, and I've lived with 2 other women. And all of those times I've liked games. And it's like there never seems an opportune time to sort of say, you know what, I should stop doing this now. Because the thing is, if you enjoy doing something and it doesn't harm, it's, well, why stop? You know? Now, I mean, as you get older, things change. I've already mentioned, you know, look, you lose your hair, your teeth aren't as good, you know, your face changes, your body changes, everything changes as you get older. And I've mentioned this before in previous videos, neurological responses slow down. That means, you know, when it comes to Twitch shooters, you're not as good as you used to be. You might have learned a bit, you might have got a bit of experience, but you're never going to be as fast in your responses. That is a physiological fact. Can't argue with it. Not sure how I got onto that. But yeah, so being good at games wasn't really important. It was more just the enjoyment of them. Now, what may be just taken as granted to a lot of my younger viewers is the excellence of graphics compared to games that I used to play when I was a kid. I mean, not when I was a kid, games were really out there, but when I was a young adult. But when I was a young adult, you know, games that you play on your phone, you know, while you're on the bus going to school, are 1,000 times more advanced than the games that I would have access to, you know, as in any kind of form. So it's it's been really kind of cool to be able to watch the progress, the development of games, watch how they become more in depth, more profound, watch as the games handle more mature themes, examine social issues, and have gone way beyond, you know, just leaping from one platform to another, or figuring out how to get past like some troll or something in The Hobbit. You know, it's so far removed from what I first enjoyed as a hobby. What I first found exciting is massively different now. Now I'm, like I say, I'm 52 now, and I see no reason to stop. I can still hold my own in most multiplayer games if I'm playing against other people. Sometimes I'll be really newbie and just get my ass handed to me, but you know what, so what? I play online with an awful lot of people who are not quite as old as me, but a lot of people are in their 30s and in their 40s, and they don't seem to have any idea about slowing down or any sort of date when they're going to say, right, that's enough, I'm I'm going to grow up now, I'm going to be an adult. So I'm not entirely sure what the point of doing this is, because there's no real summation to it. It's a never-ending story. You do sometimes, you know, get news stories or something about some 80-year-old still playing the Wii U, and you know, great on them for doing that. And as long as my thumbs can control a controller, or my hands can still manage a keyboard, as long as I can do that, I'm going to still play games, and I'm still going to enjoy it. I think there are a lot of benefits to it, to the mind. During my nursing career, I had often worked in rehabilitation, and the ground rule in rehabilitation is if you don't use it, you lose it. And basically the more you do something, the more you use something, the stronger it becomes. That applies to your cardiovascular system, it applies to your muscles, it applies to your brain, and the more that you use your brain, the healthier your brain stays. You kind of maximize whatever potential you have. Now, I don't have a lot of brain power, so I need to maximize what I have. So anyway, as always, I know a lot of my regular viewers have raised this as an issue before. I think when I turned 50, I'd raised it, and a lot of my regular viewers, you know, passed comment then, and overwhelmingly they were sort of saying, you know, good on you, Muppet. If you're still gaming at 50, it gives hope that I will still be gaming at 50. And I hope I'm still enjoying it. So I guess that's, if there is a message to this, it's live and let live, you know. And try and see things from the other person's point of view, as I have done, you know. Like I say, my initial reaction is, who the fuck are you to tell me when I can play games and when I should stop, you know? If you're enjoying games now and you're 15 or you're 20, you're 25, the chances are high you're probably going to enjoy them when you're 35. And if you're enjoying them at 35, you're definitely going to enjoy them at 45, and you're probably still going to enjoy them at 55. As always, guys, you know, give me your opinions, give me your thoughts. And this is Muppet out with one very sleepy dog on my settee. Alfie there decided he no longer wants to be the star of the show. So thanks for watching, and give me your thoughts, give me your feedback. Oh yeah, don't forget to like, rate and share if you have found this video interesting. This is Muppet out. Take it easy. Ciao.